Greetings, true believers, and welcome to another uncanny episode of History of the Marvel Universe. The Vision and the Scarlet Witch. We talked about these two in detail in previous videos, but to briefly recap, the Vision was a creation of the evil robot Ultron, a synthezoid constructed using the body of the original android Human Torch and the brain patterns of Wonder Man. Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, was a genetically enhanced Romani woman who used her seemingly mutant hex powers in conjunction with actual sorcery to wield a form of reality-altering chaos magic. And while these two fought alongside one another as mighty Avengers, an unlikely romance slowly blossomed. Meanwhile, Wanda's brother Pietro, the super speedster known as Quicksilver, disapproved of their relationship. But, unbeknownst to all, the Avengers were also being observed by the self-proclaimed Master of Time, Immortus. Immortus was actually the older and more contemplative future version of the time-traveling supervillain known as Kang the Conqueror. After abandoning his plans of conquest, Immortus was recruited by the enigmatic Timekeepers and tasked with safeguarding the 7,000-year period that his travels had spanned. And the Timekeepers also took a keen interest in the Avengers, specifically the Scarlet Witch. They knew that any children that Wanda had would potentially be powerful enough to upset the balance of the entire cosmos, and could even threaten the Timekeepers themselves. They ordered Immortus to kill the Scarlet Witch outright, but witnessing the romance growing between her and her synthezoid teammate, Immortus elected to pursue a different solution. And he began performing subtle manipulations to help their relationship develop. For example, he sent a space phantom from the timeless void of Limbo to join forces with the villainous Grim Reaper and offer to transplant Vision's mind into Captain America's body. And Immortus knew that the Vision would never betray his teammates by accepting the offer. The entire purpose of this temptation was to force the Vision to reject it, and accept himself for who and what he was, in turn giving him enough confidence to pursue the woman he loved. His resolve was further strengthened when he learned the truth of his origin, that he was once the original Human Torch, Jim Hammond. And so, feeling worthy of her love, the Vision asked the Scarlet Witch for her hand in marriage. And shortly thereafter, their union was officiated by Immortus himself. And sometime later, the pair retired to a quiet suburban neighborhood in New Jersey, with Immortus suspecting his job was complete. However, despite Vision's artificial nature, Wanda still desired a child of her own. And not long after, thanks to her witchcraft, Wanda and Vision were indeed able to conceive. 9 months later, the Scarlet Witch gave birth to two happy and healthy baby boys, Thomas and William. Their names were inspired by the men behind the two aspects of the Vision's being. Thomas was the middle name of Professor Phineas Horton, who built the original android Human Torch that became the Vision's body, while William was named after Simon Williams, whose recorded brain patterns served as the basis for the Vision's mind. This development, of course, flew in the face of Immortus's schemes, and he began investigating how this miraculous birth was possible. As it turns out, shortly before Wanda's pregnancy, Dr. Strange and two members of the Fantastic Four were engaged in a battle with the ancient super demon Mephisto. While the heroes struggled to stand up to the Hell Lord, Franklin Richards, the mutant child of Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman, was able to destroy Mephisto, breaking his dark soul into 6 pieces. Unknowingly, Wanda had seized 2 of those demonic fragments and used them to create the embryos within her. Mephisto's consciousness then reincorporated into one of the other fragments, returning him to life, albeit at a 1/6 of his former power. In order to reclaim the other 5 pieces of his soul, Mephisto decided to employ an agent to retrieve them. Enter Martin Preston, a Hollywood actor who had crashed his car in a drunk driving incident, losing his right arm in the process. Mephisto appeared before Preston and offered him a deal. The devil replaced both of Preston's arms with demonic transplants and extracted the actor's soul as payment. And thus Martin Preston was transformed into the villainous Master Pandemonium. Mephisto then manipulated Pandemonium by telling him that he had fragmented and scattered the soul of Martin Preston. Pandemonium went forth seeking to restore himself, unaware that the soul fragments he began collecting actually belonged to Mephisto. Meanwhile, Wanda and Vision took their children and moved to Los Angeles to join forces with the Avengers West Coast Division. Watching these events unfold, Immortus felt he needed to ensure the Devil's victory by weakening Wanda's bond with the Vision and thus with her children. Since the Vision had previously displayed the ability to hack into government computers across the globe, Immortus was able to influence a consortium of the world's governments into abducting and dismantling the Vision, erasing his mind in the process. Immortus also took this opportunity to sow confusion by having one of his space phantoms impersonate the late Phineas Horton to claim that the Vision's body was not the same one that was once the Human Torch. Hank Pym was able to put the Vision back together and restore his memories, but without Wonder Man's brain patterns, he had become cold and emotionless. Furthermore, now that he had a choice in the matter, Wonder Man refused to let his engrams be copied again. Not only that, but as we established in a previous video, Immortus used an artifact known as the Forever Crystal to create a chronal duplicate of the Human Torch before his body was taken by Ultron to create the Vision. And so, when the West Coast Avengers further investigated the ultimate fate of the Human Torch, they found the duplicate's body buried in an unassuming cemetery, where it had been left following one of the Mad Thinker's schemes. Wanda used her magic to reactivate the fallen hero, and the Vision came face to face with the original Human Torch. All of this served its purpose of weakening Wanda's bond with the Vision, and by extension, that of their magically generated children. Billy and Tommy would even temporarily fade out of existence when Wanda was away or unconscious. And so, when Master Pandemonium attacked again, he was able to seize the infant twins. The demonic villain absorbed the children into his being and battled the Avengers, but at the behest of Wanda's teacher, Agatha Harkness, the revived Human Torch found and brought forth the remaining soul fragments. With his task completed, Master Pandemonium suddenly disappeared, along with Billy and Tommy, and the demonic soul fragments were reabsorbed into Mephisto, making him whole once more. However, two of the fragments were so transfigured by Wanda that they had become something new. Agatha Harkness took advantage of this and erased Wanda's memories of her own children, breaking the bond she'd forged with the pieces of Mephisto's soul. The resulting magical feedback weakened the Hell Lord enough for Agatha to destroy him and scatter his essence, albeit temporarily. Because of everything that had happened, Wanda was left comatose for a time, and the Vision decided to leave and return to the East Coast. Wonder Man attempted to help things by relenting and offering to have his brain engrams copied onto the Vision once again, but the Synthezoid declined, having already made his decision. He left Wanda behind, and although Agatha had erased her memories of her children, the underlying trauma caused Wanda to briefly adopt a more villainous persona and rejoin her alleged father, Magneto. However, Immortus intervened directly this time, mesmerizing Wanda and abducting her into his timeless dimension of Limbo. As it turns out, the Scarlet Witch was something known as a Nexus being, someone who belongs equally to every reality, and thus her powers could hold sway over any possible timeline. This is likely why Immortus decided not to kill Wanda as the Timekeepers commanded. He wanted to use her as a tool to control the time stream. However, as the Avengers went after her, Agatha Harkness was able to reach Wanda by astrally projecting into Limbo, convincing her that she needed to forsake her power in order to escape. And so Wanda cast out the magical energy which allowed her seemingly mutant hex powers to reshape reality. With Immortus's plan ruined, the Timekeepers then arrived on the scene, or so it seemed. They seized the energy that the Scarlet Witch released, sealing it within Immortus, immobilizing him and turning him into a living battery for them to use. The Timekeepers then allowed Wanda and the Avengers to go free, sending them back to Earth despite their earlier plans to simply eliminate them. This is likely because these three were not in fact the real Timekeepers, but rather their more sinister predecessors, the Time Twisters, in disguise. However, that is perhaps a story for another day. After this, the years rolled on and Wanda continued her role as an Avenger, slowly regaining her powers. The Vision, meanwhile, began to display signs of regaining his capacity for love and emotion. He even returned to a more traditional appearance when the Anti-Vision, an evil version of himself from another universe, swapped bodies with him to infiltrate the Avengers. Although he looked like himself once more, he continued to struggle with his emotional reawakening. And despite his returning feelings for his former wife, he continued to push her away. Wanda eventually confronted Vision about this, and he was forced to admit that he had been attempting to keep his distance for her own good, suspecting that a renewed relationship would not be good for her mental health. However, despite Vision's hopes that his former wife would recover, Wanda's madness threatened to return when the suppressed memories of her lost children began bubbling to the surface. She grew desperate, wanting only to bring her family back, to have Tommy and Billy returned to her. And in her desperation, she came to the one person she thought could help: Victor Von Doom. Because of Wanda's nature as a Nexus being, she and Doom sought to combine their magics, tapping into an immense well of mystical energy known as the Life Force. However, the Life Force overwhelmed the Scarlet Witch, boosting her chaos magic to godlike levels and driving her beyond the point of madness. Becoming convinced that her friends had betrayed her, Wanda used her reality-warping powers to create confusion and launch a series of attacks which destroyed Avengers Mansion and cost the lives of several heroes, including Ant-Man, Hawkeye, and even her former husband, the Vision. Fortunately, Doctor Strange was able to deduce the source of the magical attacks and shut Wanda down before further damage could be done. Wanda's alleged father, Magneto, then arrived on the scene to retrieve his unconscious daughter. Magneto brought Wanda back to the remains of the destroyed mutant nation Genosha, where he and Professor X attempted to nurse Wanda back to health. However, her mental state was fragile, and she continued to warp reality around her in doomed attempts to restore her family. Furthermore, she was overcome by guilt and shame at all of the death and destruction she had caused in her darkest moments. And in the midst of all of this, her twin brother Pietro was convinced that the Avengers would kill Wanda for what she had done. Desperate to protect his sister, Pietro took advantage of Wanda's weakened mental state and her increased power, convincing her to remake the world to suit them. And so, a spell was cast creating a new pocket reality known as the World of M, where mutants were the dominant species and Magneto's family, the House of Magnus, reigned supreme. However, many of Earth's heroes regained the memories of their former lives and fought to restore the world they knew. When Magneto discovered what his son had done in his name, he began furiously battering him with metallic debris. Wanda then lashed out, saving Pietro's life and halting the conflict, but in her frenzied state, she blamed her father and their status as mutants for everything that had gone wrong. And so, before she put the world back the way it was, she cast one more spell, depowering most of the mutant population with 3 words: no more mutants. Before the House of M, there were tens, perhaps hundreds of thousands of mutants on Earth. After Wanda's spell, their numbers dropped to only a few hundred. Following this, the Scarlet Witch disappeared, and neither the Avengers nor the X-Men were able to find her. Although one good thing to come of the reality shifts was that the Avenger Hawkeye was restored to life. And now, for the next piece of our tale, we look to a young Jewish boy named Billy Kaplan. Because of his homosexuality, Billy was often the subject of bullying and physical abuse. Before the destruction of Avengers Mansion, he would sit outside the gate and admire the heroes inside. During one of these times, he was approached by none other than the Scarlet Witch, who encouraged him to stand up for himself against his bullies. Wanda healed his wounds and told him, above all, to be true to himself. Billy decided to actively avoid his bully by learning his schedule, but when he saw another boy being attacked, he couldn't stand by and do nothing. And in intervening, Billy Kaplan discovered that he had spell-casting powers of his own when he inadvertently conjured electricity, nearly killing the bully. Billy ran to Avengers Mansion looking for help, but by this point, it was gone, and Wanda was missing. However, outside the wreckage of the mansion, Billy met another boy who called himself Iron Lad. Okay, do you remember how he mentioned that Immortus was an older version of the Avengers time-traveling villain Kang the Conqueror? Well, Iron Lad was a younger version of Kang, who came back in time after a meeting with his older self because he wanted to avoid becoming Kang the Conqueror. Iron Lad attempted to seek out the Avengers for help, and while he was unsuccessful, he did track down the remains of the Vision. Before he died, the Vision had been working on a fail-safe program, identifying young people who could one day serve as the next generation of Avengers. Knowing that Kang would come looking for him to ensure his own existence, Iron Lad decided to assemble a team of young Avengers, and Billy Kaplan took the name Asgardian, although he later changed it to Wiccan. Other young Avengers included Elijah Bradley, aka Patriot, the grandson of the Black Captain America who fought during World War II, Cassie Lang, the daughter of Ant-Man, who took the name Stature, Kate Bishop, who became the new Hawkeye, and of course, Teddy Altman, aka Hulkling, the hybrid son of the Kree Captain Marvel and a Skrull princess. During their time together, Billy and Teddy grew extremely close and started dating. And of course, Kang the Conqueror did indeed come for his younger self, and it became clear that Iron Lad's altering of his own fate would cause irreparable damage to the time stream. And so, even after defeating Kang himself, he was forced to return to his proper place in time to accept his destiny. However, before he departed, he left his armor behind, installing within it a copy of the Vision's operating system, using his own brain patterns as a basis, thus creating a new, younger Vision. Sometime after this, because of his heritage, Teddy was abducted by the Super Skrull, an alien warrior with the combined powers of the Fantastic Four. In order to rescue their captured ally, the young Avengers decided to recruit another member for help. They located a boy named Tommy Shepard, whose superhuman speed allowed him both to move at incredible velocity and to destabilize solid objects, causing them to explode. However, after accidentally destroying his school, Tommy had been placed into a juvenile detention center. When the young Avengers attempted to free him, they discovered that Tommy looked shockingly like Billy, so much so that they could be twins. And in fact, after the young Avengers rescued Teddy, the Super Skrull claimed that the two boys were the children of the Scarlet Witch, Thomas and William. Digging into the Vision's memory banks, the young Avengers learned the truth of how Wanda Maximoff crafted two children out of pieces of Mephisto's soul. They also learned of how the devil was temporarily destroyed upon the reabsorption of those soul fragments. And so, Billy deduced that he and Tommy must have been the reincarnated souls of the Scarlet Witch's children, set free when Mephisto was destroyed. Of course, there was only one way to know for sure: to find Wanda Maximoff. And so, Tommy Shepard officially joined the Young Avengers, adopting the codename Speed, while Billy became Wiccan. The twins searched the remains of Genosha, the last place Wanda was seen, and found no sign of her there. They traveled to Wundagore Mountain, but could not detect any semblance of Wanda's magic in the area. Finally, they came to the New Jersey home where Wanda and Vision attempted to make a normal life, the place where they were born for the first time. However, inside they found only a disheveled Master Pandemonium, who had gone into hiding after being used as Mephisto's pawn. He initially attacked, but after realizing who the twins were, he allowed them to go peacefully, wishing only to be left alone in his shame and solitude. Then one day, the Young Avengers were confronted by Magneto, who also wanted to find his daughter. The Avengers attempted to stop them, but Billy cast a spell transporting Magneto and the Young Avengers to Mount Wundagore in Transia, where the Maximoff twins were born. There they encountered Pietro Maximoff, who attempted to get his nephew away from Magneto. While that didn't work out, the unlikely group did find evidence of Wanda's location, a robotic duplicate of the Scarlet Witch that could only have been built by Dr. Doom. You see, after the dissolution of the world of M, Wanda was left amnesiac, no longer remembering her life as the Scarlet Witch. She was discovered in Transia by Doom's scouts and brought back to the country of Latveria. Before the team could decide what to do, Billy snuck away in the middle of the night and teleported into Doom's castle. There he found the amnesiac Wanda Maximoff, who was betrothed to Dr. Doom. And then, when the Avengers, the Young Avengers, and Magneto all arrived on the scene, all hell broke loose. Wolverine entered the fray and attempted to kill Wanda for everything she had done. But then Iron Lad arrived on the scene, returning from the future to save Wanda. Iron Lad, the Young Avengers, and the Scarlet Witch escaped the battlefield by jumping into the time stream, and they emerged at a very specific point in history, right before the destruction of Avengers Mansion. Thus Cassie Lang was reunited with her father Scott. And so, the Young Avengers were able to rescue Ant-Man without causing damage to the timeline, returning to the present with him moments before he was vaporized in the explosion of Avengers Mansion. However, it was not Iron Lad who returned them to their proper time, but the Scarlet Witch, whose powers and memories had returned after reliving that fateful day. Her powers grew and she began manifesting the same threats from the day she destroyed Avengers Mansion. However, this time, rather than lashing out at her teammates, she began pointing them at herself, attempting one final act of penance. Billy rushed in, attempting to save his mother, telling her that her children were no longer lost, and insisting that she use her magic to see the truth. And so, the truth was revealed. Billy Kaplan and Tommy Shepard were the reincarnated souls of Wanda Maximoff's children. After so many years of pain and denial, the Scarlet Witch was finally reunited with her twin sons. Of course, there was still work to be done to atone for what she had caused. Wanda still possessed the life force energy that increased her reality warping powers, but also drove her beyond the point of madness. And so she asked Dr. Doom to help her and Billy channel that power to undo the spell she had cast on the mutants before relieving her of it once and for all. However, Patriot didn't trust Doom and interrupted the ritual. This caused the counterspell to fail, and Dr. Doom absorbed the full energy of the life force. The Avengers and the X-Men then joined forces to battle the newly powered Doom. Meanwhile, Billy and Wanda joined their magics to expel the life force energy from him. And so, after a hard-fought battle, Wanda Maximoff, now returned to normal, was finally reunited with her family. And that is the story of the twin children of the Scarlet Witch. Wanda later helped reignite the mutant population, guiding the mutant messiah, Hope Summers, to use the power of the Phoenix Force to undo the damage the Scarlet Witch had done. Meanwhile, the Vision was eventually rebuilt by Tony Stark, and later attempted to build a synthezoid family of his own. But perhaps these are stories for another day. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, share the video, and subscribe for more marvelous content. Be sure to leave a comment letting me know what Marvel hero or villain you want to hear about next, and as always, the issues referenced in this video are listed in the description below if you would like to read them for yourself, as well as links to other places you can find me, including my Twitch page where I stream Wednesdays and weekends. So until next time, true believers, Excelsior!